I now recognize the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Comer, from Kentucky, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Discovering the origins of COVID-19 is vital. It's vital to preparing for future pandemics and to save lives. Dr. Andersen, in your prepared testimony, you say that you're being investigated because, quote, published peer-reviewed studies that go against the preferred political narrative, end quote. Now that goes opposite to what we have seen. The preferred political narrative has always been to attack those that think this may have come from a lab. Your co-author says on the poster right behind me what the real political narrative is. Quote, given the shit show that would happen if anyone serious accused the Chinese of even accidental release. Dr. Andersen, you responded to this message, quote, yep, I totally agree, that's a very reasonable conclusion, although I hate when politics is injected into science. But it's impossible not to, especially given the circumstance, end quote. Sir, do you have a degree in political science or international relations?
I do not.
Do you have any experience in the Foreign Service or diplomatic corps?
I do not. I'm a Danish citizen.
You are the one with the preferred political narrative. You said it right there. This preference was reiterated by Dr. Collins, saying that the lab leak theory would, quote, do great potential harm to science and international harmony, end quote. We heard at our last hearing that the Biden administration was working with social media companies to censor the lab leak theory. I think you have preferred political narratives backwards, sir. When was your first conversation with Dr. Fauci about the origins of COVID-19?
I believe that was on the 31st of January 2020.
And yes or no, he suggested you write a paper during that conversation, correct?
Dr. Fauci suggested that I consider writing a paper specifically predicated on my initial hypothesis, which was that of a lab-associated virus, correct?
Then you had the February 1st conference call that had Dr. Fauci, Dr. Collins, and Dr. Farrar on it, correct?
There were several scientists, including those, yes.
Was Dr. Tabak also on that call?
I believe he was on the call. I'm unsure about that.
Did Dr. Fauci reiterate a suggestion to draft a paper on that call?
I don't believe that he directly suggested it, but there was support for us looking further into the origin of the pandemic, yes.
Well, did the February 1st conference call lead to the drafting of proximal origin?
At the time, no. These are separate events. Eventually, the conclusions from that conference call, further conversations among the authors, ultimately led up in the March 17, 2020 paper, The Proximal Origin. However, the purpose of that conference call was not to write a paper.